Hi guys, it's Rachel. Today I have filmed my drugstore foundation routine for you. I know I promised you this a little while ago when I was doing a haul, and it's finally here. I've finally got the products that I really like and would really recommend from the drugstore. A lot of these products, actually all of these products, I pretty much use every single day. Every now and then I may add in a few high-end products, but these are the general products that I use on a day-to-day basis for my foundation, even my blush. I've gone through and given some recommendations of extra products, of things that I may sort of swap in and swap out of this routine. All of them are still drugstore products. All of them are great products that I would highly recommend to you, and hopefully that they're readily available for you at your local sort of drugstore, chemist, Priceline, Big W, Target, wherever you buy makeup in your country. So I hope this video is informative and you guys really enjoy it. So let's jump into it. Okay guys, to begin my drugstore foundation routine, I use a primer, and this primer is the L'Oreal Paris Base Magique Transforming Smoothing Primer, which looks like this. It's in a cute little tub, and basically it's just like almost like a white light pink kind of cream. And I just kind of dot this on all over my face, just a little bit, and then I kind of just rub it in with my fingers. I try to concentrate on any parts that sort of have blemishes or bits that I know I'm going to put extra concealer on or extra foundation on, just so I know that that's really going to stick and stay all day. And even though it doesn't look like sort of much, it's quite small, it has last. It does spread out quite a bit. It blends quite well and almost leaves your face with almost a it feels almost like a powdery finish in a way. It's quite smooth, and I do like this. Okay, so the next thing I do is use a little bit of the Garnier Roll-On Anti-Dark Circles tube, I guess you would call it. It looks like this. And I just roll a little bit under each of my eyes. Like that. And then I just blend in with my finger. I will still conceal over the top of this, but I like just adding this as a little bit of extra coverage, and this is supposed to have ingredients in it that actually help reduce your dark circles, so that's always good. Okay, so next I will take foundation. Now, the foundation that I'm going to apply today is the L'Oreal Morphose Matte Soufflé Foundation, which is the one that looks like this at the bottom of it. It's in a cute little tub. I really like this pink. I think it's beautiful. It's like a fuchsia colour. It's really, really nice. However, I do use this, but I also use a couple of other foundations on a regular basis. One of them is my Australis Paparazzi Perfect HD foundation. I'm not using this today obviously because I have done a video which shows me applying this foundation when I did a review on that, and I'll link it in the bottom bar below if you'd like to see it. But I still highly, highly regard this, and I think it's a great foundation. The other two foundations or drugstore foundations that I've been using are the Max Factor Smooth Effect, and I use the colour Natural, and then the CoverGirl Nature Luxe foundation, which I think this one will definitely be my summer foundation because it's quite light, but it still gives you good coverage. It has SPF 10, which is great, and I have been loving this as well, and I just apply this with my fingers. So those three foundations I do highly recommend, and you could substitute any of these foundations in for this foundation routine. However, today I am going to use the L'Oreal Soufflé foundation, and I'm going to apply it with a Revlon foundation brush. So the foundation looks just like this. It looks, kind of has like a whipped, it's like a whipped kind of consistency. It's quite odd. And I am in the colour 140 Beige Natural, Creamy Natural. This is a little bit dark, and it certainly looks a lot darker than my skin, but it tends to blend out to my skin colour. So I go with that. I definitely say swatch this. I think I've said this before when I bought it. Swatch it in the store because it is really hard to tell what your colour would be, and because it blends out quite well. Sometimes you'll be a few colours. I was tossing up between like 3 different colours, so this is good, and I figure that this will sort of get me into summer as well because it is a little bit darker. So I just apply this all over my face. As you can see, there is quite a difference in colour. But once you blend it out, it seems to match. And I always make sure that I sort of start in one part of my face and I blend it all the way down my neck and back to my ear, because the last thing that you want is foundation lines. That's probably one of my pet makeup peeves, and I know that sometimes it's quite easy to end up with a foundation line, and I don't want it myself either, so I always try and make sure I blend, blend, blend. This foundation gives quite good coverage. I'd say it's probably medium to high medium coverage. I don't think it's necessarily full coverage. I don't know a lot of foundations for me personally that are full coverage. I really do like, when I'm using my non-drugstore foundations, I do use the Laura Mercier Silk Cream foundation, and I feel that's pretty high coverage. For a drugstore foundation that's high coverage, Revlon Color Stay would be my #1 recommendation, and I have used that and I do like that, so that's another option if you want a drugstore foundation to try out. Okay, so once that's blended in nicely, I then take my concealer, and for me, I'm sure you can probably guess this if you've watched any of my recent videos at all, that is the CoverGirl in Olay Simply Ageless Eye Concealer, which looks like this, and it's in a little pot. And if I open it up for you, it looks like that. It has the swirl of Olay in it, and I use this sometimes with my finger or sometimes with a little concealer brush. This is the Revlon concealer brush. But basically I'll just take this and I apply it underneath my eye, on both sides, underneath my eyes. Sometimes I'll actually put it on top of my eyelid as well. Sometimes if I'm being lazy and I don't want to use a eye primer, if I'm just doing sort of a really simple or really natural look, I'll just put a bit of eye concealer on the top of my eyelid, and I find that that helps my foundation, not my foundation, sorry, my eyeshadow stick, and that's sort of enough for it to still last throughout the day even if I don't use a primer. Just conceal around my nose. I get some sort of redness and discoloration. And then I also will use this to conceal any little spots that I have all over my face, because I do have quite a few. My skin unfortunately has decided it wants to break out now, which is always fun. Okay, so once that's done, I set my foundation with a powder. Now this is definitely matte enough that you don't necessarily need a powder, but I have combination to oily skin, and part of me is just that I'm just so used to setting with a powder that no matter what I always set with it, because it just makes me feel a little bit safer, like it's going to last a little bit longer, and like I'm going to protect myself from getting oily skin too quickly. So two of the powders that I like to use, if it's a pressed powder, it is the Maybelline Dream Matte Powder. I love this. I've been using it for years. You can see I've hit pan yet again. It's fantastic, and in summer I always use this because I find it's the best powder to keep me really matte. For loose powder, I generally use the CoverGirl Professional powder, and it just looks like this, and you get it in a massive container. It's really quite cheap. I also have used the Maybelline True Blend powder, which is kind of comes in something a little bit like this, but it's blue, and I recommend that as well. For today I'm going to use the loose powder, but in summer I always use the matte powder. So I'm going to take this with a big fluffy brush. This is the Revlon powder brush. I'm going to dip this in, tap off all the excess, and then I'm going to kind of just press it into my skin little bit just so it absorbs into the foundation and the concealer as well. We want to set it all. Okay, so once powder's done, then I move on to bronzer and blush. So for bronzer at the moment, I have been using the Maybelline Sunlight Bronzer, or I think they've renamed it to the Maybelline Fit Me Light Bronze. Either way, it looks like this. It's just a light bronzer. In summer, I might get a darker one. But I find this is really good because I can put it all over my face to give myself just a little bit of extra glow. And it's got a little bit of shimmer maybe, but it's not sort of overtly obvious. And it's just sort of easy to find. It's quite a nice colour. It's complementary to probably a lot of lighter skin tones. Obviously, if you've got darker skin, this may not show up. But I find that it's really good. And I take the same powder brush and just dip it in, and then I just slowly sort of put it, I can turn it on the side and squeeze it, and I'll use it as a sort of, as a under cheekbone contour. And then I bring it down and I'll put it all over my neck. I always make sure I add it to my neck because my neck always seems whiter or lighter than my face, and it's partly because of foundation and it's partly because it just doesn't get as much sun as my face does. I always put the bronzer along my forehead and my temples, and on my cheeks, and then down. Now I don't know how well that's showing up on camera because, like I said, it is quite light, but it just gives you that little bit of extra bronzy glow, and by putting it sort of underneath your cheekbones, it helps give you a more sculpted effect of your face, especially under your jawline as well. Especially if you're like me and have a kind of roundish face, it definitely helps a little bit. The next thing I'm going to do is blush, and blush tends to change for me quite a bit. Some of my favourite drugstore blushes that I just grabbed a few to show you are the Maybelline Sweet Cinnamon, the Expert Wear Sweet Cinnamon. I really like this blush. I use it quite a bit. I also like the Bourjois Paris Blush Duo Effect in the colour Warm Pink Golden Skin Tone, which is one of the ones that looks like this, and it has a little bit of something shimmery highlighter and then a darker blush down below. I also recently picked up the Australia's Paparazzi Perfect High Definition Blush in the colour Flash It, and I really like this one. Then I just have the Stavvy by DB, which is a Priceline brand for those of you who are in Australia. This was quite cheap, and this is the colour Nutmeg Frost. And then also the Maybelline Fit Me blush in medium nude if you just want a really kind of light natural coloured blush. So there are a few of my drugstore favourite blushes. Today I think I'm going to use the Maybelline Sweet Cinnamon just as an example. And again, I can take the exact same brush. I don't feel like you necessarily need to change heaps of brushes. I do have MAC brushes and I can change my brushes, and I may use a blush brush and that. But if you're new to makeup and you're starting out and you can't really afford a whole heap of brushes, don't feel like you absolutely need to. One big powder fluffy brush, you can still get quite a nice look. You just kind of put the blush just on the tip of it and just apply it to your cheeks and then slowly blend back. If you're worried about it being too big, you can always hold it together like this, and this just reduces the size of the fluffy brush enough to make it a little bit more exact. So that's pretty much it for the face. If you wanted to add a highlighter, I have showed this before. One of the ones that I use quite regularly, I don't have that many, but one that I do use is the Maybelline Expert Wear Shimmer Powder in the colour Blissful Pink, which looks like this. Another one that I recently discovered was the L'Oreal Glam Bronze Sun Radiance Trio, which looks like this. And I'll just take a little bit of this on my finger and apply it to the top of my cheekbones. You You can also use like a soft fluffy brush. This is the Revlon crease eyeshadow brush. I'll take a little bit of this and just add it. This just adds a little bit of shimmer and a little bit of highlight, and it's mainly when the sun or light catches the top of your cheekbones. Just gives you a little bit of that dewy effect, especially since we matted our face with the powder. Okay, so that is it for foundation. I just thought I would show you a few of the products that I use pretty much every day, drugstore products, to finish off the rest of my face. So I'll generally have like a simple eye look depending on what shadows I use, but I often use a liquid liner, and my favourite liquid liner from the drugstore is the Rimmel London Glam Eyes Professional Liquid Liner, which looks like this. And then to complete the look, my favourite drugstore mascara at the moment is Maybelline The Falsies. And I actually have the black drama version at the moment. I don't necessarily think that this is that much different to the original The Falsies. I think either's fine. If you just bought a new, just The Falsies, don't feel like you have to go out and buy the black drama version. If you're trying it for the first time, you might want to try the black drama version first. I don't think there's that much difference, but either way they're both fantastic, and I use this on a regular basis. I have a lot of drugstore mascaras. I think another one of my favorites is the L'Oreal Lash Architect 4D, but I always come back to the Falsies, so I really do like this one. And then to finish off the looks, one of the things that I will do as a good base for your eyeshadows if you don't have an eyeshadow primer is the Revlon Not Just Nudes cream eyeshadow palette. And these make really good bases for other, especially for neutral looks, but you could even use this as a base for non-neutral looks. It also is a great highlighter. And then I have so many favourite drugstore lip glosses. The Revlon Super Lustrous lip glosses are some of my favourite. The Revlon Colourburst lipsticks are some of my favourite. The CoverGirl Lip Perfection lipsticks are also up there with my favourites. Today I'm going to be putting on the Australis Colour Inject Mineral Lip Gloss, which I also really like. This one's in the colour Belly Dancer, and it's just such a really pretty pinky colour, which I'll put on for you. So they are some of the products that I really like from the drugstore. Okay, so there you have my drugstore foundation routine. If you have any questions about any of the products that I've mentioned, please let me know in the comments below. And if you have any recommendations for drugstore products, please share them with me and with everyone else in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. I do sometimes splurge on high-end products, but in the end I always come back to drugstore products. They're the ones that I buy the most often and the ones that are sort of the most easily accessible, so I love any good recommendations that you would have for me. Other than that, I hope you guys are all having an awesome day and are all really well, and I'll talk to you very, very soon. Bye!